Hi, welcome back to Mountain Gym Card Collectibles. I hope you're having a great week. So, today I'm going over a big release that I'm surprised there just isn't a lot more excitement about. And that would be the pre-order event for the 2025 Topps Marvel Studios Chrome. And if you want to get into this product, this pre-order event starts on EQL today at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Pretty simple. So, like it says here, value boxes will be available on Topps.com. But honestly, I'm guessing they'll probably cost some cash because if you know Topps Fanatics, the reality is, and I think it's setting in for a lot of people, if you want to get into opening Topps products that aren't retail, and if you want to get into hobby products, you really need to own a breaking company. I have said that so many times, but I feel like the world is starting to catch on to that fact. Okay? And I can't find a checklist on this. We can kind of see some of these cards that they have, on the top site. We see like this Kate Bishop, Marvel Gods. We see the Black Refractor number to 10. The Captain America Brave New World card. Red Refractor. And that's it. And, you can come to Topps and check it out. Why not? So, we can go to X and, see if there's any excitement. So, here we see someone posted this up already. And I'm guessing there's, some good comments. I definitely want to get my hands on, enjoy that thrilling excitement of unboxing, right? It's great that Haley Chan is there too, okay? I want to open this so bad. Here we see this 2025 Topps Marvel Studios Chrome pre-order drops November 24th. Okay, let's see what people are saying. Oh, so they just milking the F out of that Disney license. Yeah, and everyone, like I said, it's like the world's starting to catch on to Topps Fanatics. It's like, no, this product's not for you. It's only meant for the wealthy breaking companies. Like this post. We don't have any money. Looking forward to seeing the polls from the series. Something for everyone, which honestly I am too. I mean, I've always liked Marvel cards, Marvel Studios cards. I like the movies. So, for me, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. It's coming out today. I mean, we can pre-order it. I'm guessing, everyone's going to be excited for it. And what I found is basically it's a flat tire for interest for the most part. Depends on the price and if there's any in Canada. You can just get Upper Deck Marvel Series 1 through 2 on discount this holiday with 2 autos guaranteed. Yeah, see, that's just it. As people know, there's a lot of this product out already for Marvel. A lot of it's already been done by Upper Deck. If you want to get into this type of product, you'll probably save a lot of money by buying, previous sets, previous years from Upper Deck, or you can go to David Adams or elsewhere, So the secret's out, But overall, just a lot of muted interest in this. If you look at this, here's another post. Just no one's replying. No one's really interested, It is what it is. And I would blame Topps for this, I mean, here's a reply. 2025 Topps Marvel Studios Chrome. People buying this in Japan, please make it only for those who've properly watched the MCU and are super knowledgeable about it, okay? Those who aren't will absolutely just sell it off right away. Seriously, stop it. And, they make a great point. I mean, typically, if a breaker doesn't get this, they'll go to a scalper, but that's just the nature of, Topps Fanatics products is they're not really meant for the general public for the most part. They're meant for wealthy people, wealthy breaking companies, this and that. So I understand why the interest is becoming muted. And that takes me to another big post that I found today. And this comes from Card Purchaser. And I was surprised to see the amount of replies to this post. It's a pretty simple, Twitter X post. What is your biggest worry about the future of the hobby? And this just came out on November 21st. And when I see people reacting more to this than, say 2025 Topps Marvel Studios Chrome, it says a lot about what is currently happening in our hobby. Well, right here. Will other cars from this era finally take off, or just Jordans? When do 90s junk truly get their time in the sun? Cite, they shouldn't be worth a ton, but they damn sure shouldn't be worth beans either. IMO. And that's the nature of a lot of 90s big basketball stars. Allen Iverson, I have been shouting that out for so long. Be very, very, very careful with your basketball. If you're going to get into 90s, I'd recommend football and baseball. I sell so many, cards. I have a lot of awesome 90s cards, maybe not as awesome as that Allen Iverson card. But for one reason, people just aren't interested in these big basketball stars cards. A healthy recession will severely deflate prices, which, I suppose some people want that, others don't. We'll see what the replies are to that. Not much. Okay, so here's a reply. Young folks, really young, chasing monetary value and fat stacks, more than the joy of collecting a team or player they love. It's not 100%, but I see so many young ones chasing dollars and talking prop bets instead of maybe trying to snag a rainbow of a player or even being able to name a favorite team. Makes me a bit sad because they don't need a 20% return at age 11 to 14. This will happen soon enough. Go enjoy. Be smart for sure, but have fun with it. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people really don't have as much fun with sports cards as other cards. For the fact that so much of it seems to be related to value over enjoyment. And I go back to Pokemon. If you want to enjoy cards, Pokemon is awesome. You can play them, you can collect them. They're affordable. Fanatics and the Topps machine, and even Panini has made sports cards into something that most people just can't afford anymore. If you want the good stuff, Here we see this. Fanatics, yeah. I mean, Fanatics to me is going to ruin the hobby. I mean, the monopolization, the greed, the focus on, screwing most people over and not giving a lot out. That's the Topps Fanatics way. I mean, would I prefer the old Topps? Yeah, I like the old Topps, I wasn't a troll for the old Topps company. But Topps Fanatics is a nightmare. I feel like they have so many different branches of business. So if one branch starts failing, they can go to sports cards or one of their other branches and start raising, the costs on that branch to, make up for something that isn't working out for them. I don't like that. I would prefer to have a company that strictly focuses on sports cards. It'd be more affordable. Number one, affordability, and number two, overprinting. Yeah, and Topps Fanatics tends to make it unaffordable, and they tend to overprint. Especially in their retail. Fanatics will kill local card shops. People want a full hobby experience, not just buy wax relentlessly. Card shops or community and private equity is going to ruin it. Well, I feel like that local card shops, your LCSs are still going to be around. I just feel like a lot of them will be more devoted to TCG than sports cards. Due to the fact that, I keep saying it, breaking companies seem to control a lot of sports cards. And if you want to pretend it's not working out that way, well, I guess continue to lie to yourself. But the reality is breaking companies tend to get the best. And, we're just kind of in a trickle down sports card economy based on that. Everything is way too expensive. Gonna lose the kids and average collectors. Everyone just keeps catering to the top 1%. Most of the market is going to be decimated in recession, but that take is not a worry. It will happen. Okay. I'm not exactly sure if we're going to hit a recession or a depression. I know that a lot of people are talking about that. But, you know, I still see products selling out, you know, on tops for the most part. Maybe there isn't as much excitement on 2025 Topps Marvel Studios Chrome as their other, you know, Chrome products. But I still see, you know, more companies expanding into sports cards, you know, whether they're breaking companies or, you know, maybe anything else. That we won't get our hobby back from the influencers and scalpers. Well, that's just it. You know, scalping, I'm guilty. You know, I flip product. I typically don't flip sports card products, though, for, you know, unsealed wax. I buy, you know, sealed products for Pokemon and other things, but I typically don't resell sealed products for sports cards. Pricing more and more people out, making it less of a kid-friendly hobby, which could hurt shortly down the road. Yeah, and that's just it. As sports cards overall, the history of sports cards through the 20th century has always been relative to youth and kids. Well, the way that the industry has made it is they have been priced out for the most part. They've priced out their parents. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to have a kid, you know, start working at, you know, 15 years old full time, you know, so they can afford the hobby? Give me a break. That kid's going to work part time, go buy some Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, whatever, not spend that much on it and enjoy it a lot more. I mean, that's the issue here with TCG. I will say it again so you don't forget. We are living in the TCG era. We are not living in the sports card era anymore. The never-ending next special, one of question mark, that keeps expanding series, colors, etc. Yeah, you know, I mean, you can't get out of that. I mean, the forced scarcity, you know, corporate scarcity, manufactured scarcity, it's a joke, you know, it really is. Keeping things affordable. Licensing being with one company doesn't bode well for the collector regardless of what people think of Panini. We have seen the Topps prices go crazy in the massive print runs of existing products. Thinking it will get better is optimistic at best. Yeah, and I will say it. You're going to be happier doing Pokemon right now. I am. I'm focused a lot more on Pokemon, and I'm just a lot more happier than dealing with the nightmare of sports cards that just seems to be dedicated to the wealthiest and the wealthiest. We saw it on here earlier, the 1%, you know. I mean, last time I went to my LCS, I told them, you know, I just feel like so many of these sports cards are meant for millionaires, you know. I don't own a breaking company. What am I doing even looking at these boxes? You know what I mean? Whenever there are two competing services, let's say Car Dealer Pro and Haystack, I always pick the one that eventually goes out of business. Okay. Everyone has, you know, a right to choose what they want. Manufacturer's greed, yeah. And that's what's really ruined the sports card hobby overall. You know, you can watch the big gurus, sports card gurus on YouTube. They will keep selling you sports cards like they are hot. They're hot on the market, you know. But overall, Pokemon's hot and sports cards are not. Drive that into your brain and you're going to be more satisfied. The prices, when all I really want are complete base sets. Yeah, and that's just it, is, well, you know, the prices on the lower end products, like say Series 1, isn't too bad for Topps, but we know it's just junk, you know, it's just toilet paper. There isn't a lot of value there. Maybe there's a few more valued cards, but it's all just a bunch of commons, you know, and those commons really aren't worth anything. That the scalpers will never leave, and I'll never get to enjoy my shiny cardboard again. Yeah, well, it depends on what you're buying, you know. What I found is, like say this 2025 Topps Marvel Studios Chrome. You might be able to get a better deal on that from the scalpers, because I just don't know if people are going to be jumping into that. I mean, I don't see a lot of excitement for it for one reason or another. I'm not sure why. Saturation, you're getting that too. It gets too expensive, ever increasing costs. Too many cards being overprinted. Michael Rubin. Yeah, Michael Rubin to me is the biggest threat to, the sports card industry imaginable, He's made all the focus about himself and his bank account over, treating collectors like they should, I feel like Michael Rubin treats collectors with disrespect. He only cares about breaking companies, You can't pretend he doesn't, I mean, it's really, he is the biggest threat to the industry at this point, in my opinion. Bubble busting, yeah. I mean, eventually you'd think it would. I just don't know when that's going to happen. No worries, I'll always enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, if you're collecting certain cards, they tend to be more affordable. Like, let's just say that you collect, like, racing cards, for, auto racing. I believe you're going to be a happier collector than, say, a lot of, like, say, football, basketball collectors, because they really do, bring up the prices on, say, the basketball, football, baseball over, say, auto racing. The pieces of, I won't say it, that ruined it will never pay a price for ruining it. Okay, well, it's been getting ruined for quite a few years, let's be honest. The saddest thing for me, though, is I feel like there was more interest in sports cards 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And, ever since Michael Rubin and the Topps Fanatics machine have strictly more or less been catering to breakers, it's just kind of sad for me to see, people pulling the parachute cord and doing different things, Unfortunately, I've been one of those, I have pulled the parachute cord. I jumped out of the plane, It's like, okay, I guess I'm not meant to be here. And so, like my previous episode, I'm pushing more into Pokemon, and I'm happy you're doing it. Carpetbaggers ruining the hobby through rampant price gouging and too much FOMO hype for collectors and hobbyists. Honorable mention for too many products at insanely high box prices. Yeah, I mean, if you go over a lot of the comments in this, there are so many that relate to that. People are feeling it, It's, I'm not sure what to say about the U.S. I mean, it feels like people can't really enjoy hobbies anymore in the U.S. Let's be honest here. I mean, I used to be able to enjoy so many hobbies, like growing up in the 80s, 90s, they were affordable. I would go fishing. I would go hunting. I would collect my cards, I would do other things, video games, this and that. All this stuff was more or less affordable. But nowadays, so much is unaffordable that you're just kind of left going, well, what can I do? What can I collect? Well, you can collect low-end stuff that nobody else wants, I guess, and if it makes you happy, but I doubt it will. Sticker autos are going to be nearly worthless in the future. Well, I'm not a big fan of sticker autos. I don't know if that's going to be the case. But the issue I have with sticker autos is they're really relative to the adhesive now, aren't they? And guess what? Adhesive tends to dry up eventually. And when it dries up, it doesn't stick anymore. That's why I always prefer hard signed. But the issue with hard signed, too, is hard signed tends to fade more than the sticker. So, there's a lot of catch-22s with autos. Crashing and being in the same situation back in the junk wax era. Thought I was secure for the future, but I have a bunch of cards and sets worth not much after all these years. Yeah. you have to get used to declaring your sports cards common cards, rare cards, super rare cards, kind of like Pokemon. What's the problem with sports cards? What's the biggest problem with when you buy a box of Chrome? Well, you get a ton of common, base cards, Yeah, and they're very expensive and they're all chromed up and they're made to look very fancy. But why bother? Why are they putting so much money and effort into a common card for Chrome, For Chrome, what I would prefer is they have just like a cardboard, common cards, base cards, and then when you hit a better card, like say a rookie card, rookie auto, inserts, those are your nice Chrome cards. It'd be a lot more affordable that way, But they like that whole banner of Chrome, and so the issue with a lot of these high-end cards that I don't like is you pay so much money if you're ripping open boxes for common cards. It's ridiculous, and those common cards, whether they are Chrome cards or not, are still worthless. Definitely prices getting out of hand. Yeah, I mean, and to me, they really shouldn't be getting out of hand for sports cards because sports cards are gambling to no end. I mean, even when you get the big sports star, how's their career going to work out? Are they going to screw up? Are they going to get arrested? And tank their career? I mean, that's the big risk. Sealed product being cheaper online than in retail stores. Well, I mean, typically your retail is cheaper than like trying to get into hobby boxes, mega boxes for the most part, but it's not always the case. Most people will be priced out, yeah, and that's really where the youth has been priced out, of this hobby for the most part. That's why I see, so many people buying, Magic, Pokemon, other TCG, Yu-Gi-Oh! Over sports cards at the LCS, I'm just going to say it. If I ever open an LCS, it's going to be strictly dedicated to TCG with a very, very minimal slice of pie for sports cards, From what I've seen, I would be making a lot more money. And this really just keeps going on and on. I mean, I could just keep going on with this episode just from this post. But it's something to think about that, there's just going to be so much dissatisfaction in this hobby currently for a lot of reasons. And the greed tends to be the biggest focus, the big corporate monopolization of sports cards is not good for the hobby at all. It's good for TCG. As long as Fanatics and Topps doesn't roll into the TCG, like take over Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or anything, we'll be okay. Could you imagine if Fanatics owned Pokemon? I mean, the prices, could you imagine the Pokemon collectors? The prices would just be like atrociously, expensive. No one could afford it. Once again, it'd be only for breaking companies. So overall, we went over, this pre-order event for 2025 Topps Marvel Studios Chrome, with all the big superstars in it, which honestly, I don't see a lot of interest, strangely enough. I couldn't even find any, checklists or anything on it. So I honestly don't know what to say about that. I wish Upper Deck, Flair still had that licensing. I'd likely see a lot more interest in it. And then as far as the overall hobby itself, I went over that post and pretty much, that thing goes on for like miles with replies. It really does. And overall, it's negative. And overall, what they're saying are the same things. It's become too expensive. The youth has been priced out. It's for the 1%. It's overprinted. It's there's so many issues. With the current state of the hobby. You won't get that from a lot of the big hobby heroes on YouTube. You just won't. They're all about their channels and blowing smoke up your what, so you can keep watching their channels so they can keep making that cash because they're monetized. I'm not monetized. I don't know if I ever will, to be honest. So I'm just going to say it for what it is, I'll put it out there. The hobby is tanking in a lot of areas. And it has to do with, more or less, Michael Rubin, Topps Fanatics, and their monopolized greed of the entire sports card market. So anyway, how do you feel about all this? Do you believe things need to change? I would like to see some of these sports card or sports leagues pull their licensing from Topps Fanatics and move it elsewhere. I would just love to see that. And start to see more people get into sports cards like they used to, when it was affordable, in the 20th century. Post 9/11 sports cards have become a nightmare. Anyway, I'd like to thank my subscribers, my viewers. If you haven't subscribed as a viewer, it's 100% free. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I'm out of here. Bye.